Just 1/2 of a teaspoon of this one thing can be comparable to ibuprofen for inflammation. And that thing is turmeric. I'm not talking about the turmeric that you sprinkle on your food or your eggs. I'm talking more about a concentrated turmeric, because turmeric is a spice, but there's a certain thing in turmeric called curcumin that is really doing the magic. But you can't just take turmeric as a spice and expect it to do what I'm going to show you right now. So many videos complicate this topic with all these big biochemical names. All you need to know is this, very simple. There are 4 master switches or dials that will turn up pain and inflammation or turn down pain and inflammation. And that's basically the gist of it. This dial right here is the pain and inflammatory factory. It produces pain signals and inflammation. The second dial is the master inflammation on switch. So it'll trigger hundreds of different genes in relationship to turning on inflammation. It's kind of like the master circuit breaker for inflammation. And then you get the third dial. This is the inflammation megaphone. It's like an amplifier. It amplifies inflammation. It doesn't cause pain directly. It just keeps the inflammation going on and on and on. And this is why a lot of the drugs for autoimmune diseases target this biochemical pathway. And then we have the fourth alarm right here. This is the backup inflammatory alarm system that keeps screaming long after the fire is over. And I'm talking about inflammation. And this is why certain treatments will address one thing, but they don't address everything necessarily. And this one's really important for asthma, inflammation, and autoimmune disease. So now you know the basics on biochemistry as far as pain and inflammation. Let's first talk about ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is really good at turning this knob off, pain and inflammation, and it does so very quickly. But here's the problem. Part of this process here protects certain organs, like your stomach and like your kidneys. And so when you take ibuprofen, it'll turn off those pathways, and you can end up getting side effects like stomach ulcers, problems with the kidneys, aka side effects. And the other thing you need to know about ibuprofen, ibuprofen does not deal with these other pathways. It doesn't deal with the master inflammatory on switch or the megaphone or the backup inflammatory system. And this is why people have to keep taking it over and over and over again, because it doesn't resolve the whole process. Now, just as a side note, Tylenol doesn't even affect any one of these. Tylenol works in your brain, and so it shuts off the central nervous system for pain so you don't feel it, but it doesn't do anything for inflammation. What about aspirin? Aspirin only focuses on this pathway right here. Not this one, or this one right here. But as you know, when you block things right here, you can create side effects with the stomach. This is why people that take aspirin end up having bleeding stomach sometimes and other side effects. Now with Tylenol, you can have a lot of side effects in your liver. Now let's switch over to turmeric. What does turmeric do? Turmeric has a completely different strategy. It affects not just the COX pathway, but this pathway and this pathway right here. Not as strong, but it starts to turn down the dial of all 3 of these right here. And the research, which I'm going to share in a minute, involves taking 1,500 milligrams with black pepper, because black pepper helps the absorption of turmeric. But only 1/2 teaspoon of this extract can create a comparable effect to ibuprofen. Let me just tell you a little bit about this study. This study was a randomized controlled study. It was double-blind. It was on a reasonable sample size, 367 people, and it was peer-reviewed and published on humans, not mice. And it showed that concentrated turmeric, curcumin, at 1,500 milligrams with black pepper showed comparable effects to ibuprofen. But the biggest thing that I think you need to know is without the side effects that you would get with ibuprofen. There's a couple other things that I want to share with you. Extra virgin olive oil does mimic some of the effects of ibuprofen at the molecular level. Not as strong as ibuprofen, but it turns down the dial. And so this is why I would recommend using this on a regular basis on your salad. And as a fun fact, do you know that little tingle that you get in the back of the throat when you actually consume the real extra virgin olive oil. Did you realize that if you took liquid ibuprofen, you would get the same effect on your throat? A couple other things. Ginger is kind of an unrecognized, under-acknowledged remedy for this pathway right here, which is really good for turning down inflammation. This pathway is like the amplifier of inflammation. Also, this pathway is where the omega-3 fatty acid works, like fish oil, cod liver oil. Will address this pathway, which helps reduce inflammation. Now, Humira addresses this one right here. A lot of people take this for autoimmune disease, and now you know why, because it reduces the megaphone of inflammation, but it does not work on this pathway, or even this pathway. Let's talk about this pathway. It's called 5-LOX. This is the backup inflammatory alarm system. This is the one that can still activate even by shutting these off right here. It just so happens that boswellia, which is an herb, this targets 5-LOX. So boswellia is another great remedy for inflammation, and now you know where it fits into the scheme of things. Now I want to answer a bigger question. We've talked about what turns off pain signals, but my question is, what turned them on in the first place? What is the root cause of all of these right here? All right, I have my other whiteboard here. There's actually 5 primary things that turn on the inflammatory switches, okay? And this is actually more important than the last part, because if you know what turns it on, then you can actually not just manage the pain and inflammation, you can correct it. And this is the part that medicine doesn't focus on. All of the ones I'm going to talk about turn on all 4 of those pathways. And if we can correct these, we can not only turn all of them off, but we can actually make sure they don't come back. The biggest one is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance happens when you consume a lot of carbohydrates over a long period of time, sugar and starch, and also you eat frequently. So you're snacking on a lot of things. And also you can get this from consuming too many seed oils. People with insulin resistance have a lot of pain and inflammation, okay? Number 2, mitochondrial damage can come from a lot of things. It could come from this. It could come from smoking. It could come from junk foods, ultra-processed foods. It can come from overtraining, not getting enough sleep, having a sedentary lifestyle. And then number 3, we have chronic oxidative stress. This could be from a lot of things. Toxicity, it could be from smoking, drinking, eating junk foods. And number 4, leaky gut. Again, this relates to things that you are eating. Ultra-processed foods. Gluten can do it, and seed oils can create leaky gut. And then number 5, you have chronic infections, like you could have Lyme disease, you could also have Epstein-Barr virus or herpes virus that can go in and out of remission. But what's interesting about that, people with chronic stress can activate these latent viruses that can come out of remission and create inflammation. But what's interesting is these are the 5 things that turn on these switches. And so if we're going to use medication to turn those off and get side effects and ignore these, then we're really missing the boat. So if we look at these, we want to correct them with going on a low carb diet, okay? Because that's how you correct insulin resistance. You have to give up something called ultra-processed foods, aka junk foods. You want to do, of course, intermittent fasting, very important. Intermittent fasting is probably one of the most powerful things to reduce inflammation that you can do. Your inflammation just goes away, your arthritis goes away. And then prolonged fasting is the next level anti-inflammatory, because I've had people with the most severe autoimmune inflammatory conditions completely get rid of inflammation by doing prolonged fasting. There's several nutrients involved in inflammation as well. Having enough magnesium can reduce not just inflammation, but any type of muscle inflammation. And vitamin D is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories as far as natural things as well. When you're deficient in vitamin D, you're going to have inflammation. If you're lacking zinc, that can create inflammation. If you don't have enough omega-3 fatty acids, you can have inflammation, especially if you have too many omega-6 fatty acids, which is part of the seed oils. I have a free download that I want to give to you. This free download is my daily routine in a checklist. This is a routine that I use every day to feel like I'm 18 years old, even though I'm 60 years old, and I want to give it to you for free. And so there's a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that. I want to give you something very practical that you can do right now to fully fix this problem. okay? And I created a video to show you how to get rid of all of these right here. And it primarily focuses on correcting what you eat, as well as the timing of when